I feel like I'm losing my mind here, and my parents are draining me. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. So I'm a 17F, about to graduate, so it's a given that my parents are a little on edge, not a little. No, they've thrown themselves off and hit every paranoia tree on the way down. So a little background, my parents are Hispanic, Puerto Rico, so therefore I am. They are also heavily Catholic, so therefore I am not. I am diagnosed with ASD and ADHD, both attention and hyperactivity. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm about to graduate, and that has made me take a step back and look at my life. I'm going to preface this by saying, my parents are not bad people, and I have been lucky enough to enjoy a nice, comfortable life. They are flawed and I love them, but I don't think their rules are a good fit for me or my mental health. Anyway, I'm going to be 18 soon, and after I graduate, I plan to head off to college. So something my parents are starting to do is trying to make me become more independent, which is not a bad thing in itself. The problem lies in their approach to this. I am the only girl in my family aside from my mother, so in a traditionally Hispanic Catholic household, I was the precious flower in need of protecting. I was never allowed to do anything. I couldn't go outside to play by myself. We lived on a military base, probably one of the safest places. I wasn't allowed to get dirty or sit with my legs up because I was a lady. These were just the small things. My father used to say to me, "Seen, not heard." He said this to all of us, my two brothers, one younger, one older, but to me he usually accompanied that with this phrase, "Ladies must not be loud." I didn't cut my hair because my mom thought I looked better with long hair and dresses. I couldn't wear shorts except under my dress, and around this time, I was being severely bullied by my classmates. They would pull my hair, put glue in it, touch it without asking, drop books on my head, trip me, tear up my papers, etc. And when I told my parents a month later, they got upset at me for not telling them earlier, and how it was my fault that it continued because I didn't fight back. I was 12 years old, so their solution was to tell me that every boy wanted to defile me, and how every girl was jealous and wished they could be me. So what happened? I started to feel that my self-worth was tied to my looks and virginity. I couldn't make regular friends, and the ones I did make I couldn't hang out after school. Again, military base West Point if you're interested. Super small. My friend lived down the road from me because my parents didn't trust them and didn't think I could make good friends. And every time we went out, and still to this day, my mother will make comments on my clothing about how much it's showing, and when I was young and on the playground, I was always scolded because older men were looking up my dress, and I was running around and acting childish, still 12 here. My parents were sexualizing my body before I even had an idea about what the FCK that meant. When I started wearing bras, my parents would get upset if we were on a trip and my brothers complained that I wasn't wearing one. Not at me, but that my brothers and I were fighting. How is that my fault? But in the moment and the moments after that, I felt bad that I was going through puberty. It all came to a head when I was 13, and I was SA by the girl I called my best friend. And I broke. For as long as I can remember, my self-worth came from my purity and my innocence, and that had been taken from me by the person I called my best friend. I had been bullied before, but now it felt worse. I started to notice that boys were commenting on my body. People would grope me in gym. I forgot a bra for gym one day, and a girl took me aside and scolded me for tempting the boys. All the while behind closed doors, my body was being taken from me without my consent. And once she cut me off from all my support systems, she told me she hated me and abandoned me. I had been so focused on what boys may do. Nobody even seemed to look at what a girl may do. This is when I started trying to find myself. I realized I was bisexual, and this is when I started to argue with my parents more about going to church. How could I go to a place where everything told me I was a broken, damaged, good, and what I wanted and what I felt didn't matter? I still respected their views and religion. I only wish they gave me that same respect. I didn't believe in God anymore, because how could I believe in a being who is said to be loving and kind, when what happened to me was one of the most heinous things that could happen to a person? I begged and begged for anyone to come save me. I prayed and prayed, but nobody did. I can't believe in the idea of what God is when He lets so many things happen. Free will be damned. I've tried to tell my parents that I don't want to go to Mass because of my beliefs and what they've said about people like me, and my mother just says, "While you live in my house, it is my job to teach you about the Lord. But I'm not forcing you to go. But if you choose not to go, you will bear the consequences when I get home." So I go, because I really have no other choice. My parents are the type to punish me until they've decided on a punishment. I can feel people stare at me. I've caught older men starring up my dress. I feel uncomfortable in my own skin and violated. But do my parents listen? No, because by setting my boundaries, I'm disrespecting them. I told them recently what happened to me, and first thing my mom said was, "Why didn't you tell me?" My mom is a therapist BTW, has her doctorate in marriage and family therapy. I would have thought that of all people my mother would understand why I couldn't say anything. While I was being SA in my own home, the person told me, she said, "No one cares about you. You're alone. Look, here we are in your house and nobody is here to help." And when nobody did come, that cemented that thought process in my head. I finally gained the confidence to tell my mother and father, and my parents asked me if I could try to call her or her mom to try and sort things out. I waited until we moved out of the state to say something. Why the FCK? Would I want to call them? My father was upset that I didn't fight back, that I didn't say anything, and that he raised me better than this. This is the reaction they always have when I tell them something like this. Why didn't I do it sooner? My father has diagnosed PTSD and was abused by his mother. Does he like to talk about it? No. Did he tell anyone during the time it was happening? No. And what he said to me broke the sliver of trust one had in my parents. He told me, after I had just told him how I was violated by the person I called my best friend, "I don't get why you lied to me. I have trauma, and some of it, Muneka." Which means, doll, how fitting, probably is worse than yours. What? The FCK. He does have trauma, and that is valid, but no trauma is worse than another. Why don't I trust them? Why don't I tell them about when I'm groped, dehumanized, and violated? Because every time I do, they make it about them, how I hurt them, how I lied to them, and somehow I'm always at fault. I gave them my trust and respect, and every time I try to set boundaries or share something with them, they spit in my face. Literally, my father spits a lot when he scolds me, and he has the habit of getting in my face. So when I tell him he's spitting on me, I'm being disrespectful for interrupting him and talking back. They've told me that spitting in someone's face is one of the most disrespectful things you could do. And all they've shown me is that I'm not allowed to be my own person, that I don't own my own body. They've told me this. Am I over what happened to me? FCK, no. I still have trouble coming to terms with it. I keep thinking, what if I overreacted? What if I just imagined it? What if it's my fault? I have to work through it, but I won't be doing that with the people who throw my trust back in my face, this time covered in brown. I know they love me and I in turn, but that doesn't give them the right to do whatever they want because they're my parents. Because we're Hispanic, there is a hierarchy. Basically, anyone who's older than you is better and worth more as a person, and you have to bend over backwards for whatever they want. If you don't, you're disrespecting not only them, but the people who raised me too. That is how it will be for the rest of my life. When my parents get older, it's expected that I take care of them full time, as well as financially support them. The only way I will be higher than someone in the hierarchy is if I or my brothers have children. I am never going to treat my potential offspring like I was. Nobody deserves to feel like they mean less than the rest of their family just because they're young. Nobody should not have the right to privacy or setting boundaries. My parents can set boundaries, but I can't because they're my parents and the rules don't apply to them. It's giving Nixon vibes. They have parental controls on my phone, drawing tablet, and TV. Family Link, the app for 12-year-olds. I'm 17. They go through my journal. They go through my history. They are angry they don't have biometrics on my phone. They get upset at my password because they can't remember it. I've given it to them. I changed it to a pattern to make it easier for them. They go through my room, trash, drawings, etc. They've removed my door because I closed it, not locked it, closed it. I'm not allowed to lock my room. They don't trust me enough to chat with my friends on Discord. Some of them don't have a phone because I'm too naive. Whatever the FCK that means. I can't spend my own money, and get in trouble if I use it to buy food. I can't go out with friends if my parents don't like them. They don't like a lot of them. They go through my sketchbook, and if they don't like what I drew, they ask me to shred it. If I refuse, they shred it themselves. It's usually just characters from a horror game, or supernatural characters, i.e., Wendigos, zombies, giraffes. I don't draw furry corn like they think. That brown is nasty. They say it's too graphic and mature for me, the person who drew them. So I draw digitally and don't draw anything I like to draw. It's gotten to the point that when they threaten me with my phone, electronics, or whatever I've been hyper-fixating on, I don't care. I don't become emotionally attached to anything because I know that it is at risk of being destroyed. Strict parents can teach you a lot, like how to recognize who's walking by the sound of their feet, or how to fake being asleep well enough to trick to military veterans. I have done this. Or my personal favorite, how to find a loophole in parental controls. Like just getting a second browser app and connecting it to a new email, then put parental controls on that email that you control from your drawing tablet, so they can't get control of that browser. Or how to remotely control the family computer and put corn in your parents' personal user history so they get upset at it and try to clear it, resetting their settings in their process without having to touch it and leave no trail. I don't watch corn, but I do sometimes like to screw with them, then they wonder how it got there. And if you get caught, just do the same thing a little differently. Strict parents aren't teaching their kids to be better than others. They're teaching them how to get better at hiding and finding loopholes. And then your kids don't trust you, and you lose your relationship when they turn 18. It is my life. I'm not going to give it up just so I can cater and nanny to my parents' every whim. Don't get me wrong. If they need it, I'll take care of them. But I'm not going to do it because I have to, and it's my obligation as their child to return the favor of them raising me. If I do, it will be because I want to, and I love them. That may sound cold and heartless, but I didn't choose to be born. They choose to have me. And when they did that, it is their obligation to raise the child they brought into the world. If they didn't want me, they shouldn't have had me. Get an abortion or put me up for adoption. But I'm not going to sacrifice my life just because they got a participation award for parenting. I love my parents, and I know deep down that they don't know what they do is hurtful. No matter how hard I try, I can't explain my feelings and how my experiences affected me to people who didn't grow up with it, to people who don't want to understand because it challenges their worldview. There is a lot more, but this has gone on for way too long, and I don't think many people will read this whole thing. But if you did, thank you for reading my long rant, and it means a lot to me that people will listen. Now to the next story, Story 2. Entitled Mother Attacks Me for Taking Her Baby to Jail for Trying to Kidnap Me. Before we start, yes, this is real and happened to me. I had posted this on a different account before, but it got taken down for the account being new. For context, this happened over a year ago, and some details may be a little fuzzy. I will not be giving much details about anything but the story for privacy reasons. I don't need this in my life any more than necessary, and the family of the mom and son doesn't deserve any worse than they already have. I'm here because I was talking to my therapist the day before writing this, and Reddit got brought up. They said that maybe it would help with some of the lingering effects from this if I tell my story and just let it out, so here I go. Starting off, I was with my boyfriend on a Saturday night, just having a date night. It all was going well till at some point my BF went to the bathroom, and this random guy came over to me. The convo goes as followed. Him: "What's someone like you doing with that dummy?" Me: "Dumbfounded, excuse me, what did you say?" Him: "You heard me, now why don't you come with me?" He points to his table with some other guy. Now this place has a specific bar area where his table was, so I just thought he was drunk and brushed off the insults with him having too much to drink. Me: "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go over there, I'm content here." Now it's been a couple minuets and my BF is coming back and wants the other guy, that he'll just call him Bill, completely random BTW. He asks who Bill was, and I just brushed it off as a drunk and nothing important. I couldn't have been more wrong. When we left, we live on the outskirts of town for the cheap houses. Because of this, we were in walking distance of the restaurant. So we walk, obviously. On our way home, Bill and his friend jump us. His friend tackled my BF, making him to focus on trying to break free while Bill grabs me by the arm and is dragging me. I'm 5, One is pretty skinny and this guy is defiantly over 6 foot and had some muscles, not crazy or anything, but enough to completely take control over me. And he does very well being able to drag me while keeping me from breaking free. Once the shock of the situation was over, I started yelling for help. He got me just around the corner before one of my neighbors, we will call him Chase. He heard the yelling and came running. Not just 4 steps around the corner, Bill starts slowing down as Chase just slammed this guy to the ground, unluckily taking me down to so I can safely say it hurt. Chase was able to keep the guy down while the cops came from being called by someone else, who it was. When the cops got there, everyone except me was put in cuffs until I got the story about what happened with my BF and Chase, and they were let free. At this point, we were tired to give statements at the station and everything right then, so we waited till the next day where we also got some cameras. That will be important later. Now on that Sunday, we gave our statements and cameras up on both doors and the living room and kitchen facing the doors. We also started looking for the lucky lawyer, about to make some easy money as the restaurant got most of it on footage, so going to the next day. Here is where the entitled mother shows up at my house at 1 in the afternoon. My BF was at work, and I was on vacation to de-stress for the week. So after the second time knocking, I slowly opened the door, making sure to leave the chain on to keep the door from opening too far. You all should know what I'm talking about. But sadly, with a cheap house comes with cheap locks, and this crazy lady slams on the door, knocking me down and breaking off the terrible lock. This lady proceeds to start attacking me, trying to punch me and scratch me, saying, "You fing put my baby in jail for no reason. Tell them you lied. You better pay his bail, you dummy." And this went on for a couple minuets before I got a good hit on her, knocking her off to the side. And when she tried to hit me again, I was able to dodge this and I slam her into a wall. Now she starts yelling about calling the cops and getting me arrested for assaulting her. By now the cops were already pulling up, cause when my BF saw this dummy break in through the doorbell cam, he called them. And when they saw this lady that said she just was trying to talk to me, I just attacked her. With what happened after her date with the wall, it looked as she was the one that was attacked. So I was put in cuffs in a car while they talked to her. Now as they're talking, my BF finally pulls up after rushing out of work. He told me the convo went something like as followed. Yeah, he just started attacking, talking to the cop. BF, what is happening? Cop, do you live? Cuts him off. The FCK you want? Yes, I asked, and she actually said this. Cop, please let me talk. Now do you live here? Scoffs to this BF. Yes, and I want to know why this dummy is standing here while he's pointing towards me is in there. There is now another cop that takes the to another spot nearby, but not without her screaming at him for calling her a dummy. And the first cop tells my BF what they had heard. After that, my BF says that's not true, and he can show the camera footage. I can even remember that moment that when the heard camera, I could visibly see from the back of the car her entire face go so white I thought I would go blind. Once they saw what actually happened, I was out real quick, while she was now the one in the back of a car. Thank God for both Chase and the cameras we got. I can't even think of what would happen if that wasn't the case. They both lost their cases and are still in jail as far as I know, but just writing some of this still makes me have panic attacks, but I do feel a lot better, and so hopefully I can get some good sleep soon. I'm sorry there's a lot to read, but I just wanted to tell the full story all in one go. Next story, Story 3. My mom, 55, said I should be supporting myself at 19. Her mom still pays her rent. My mom grew up with very wealthy parents, and to this day, has never bought a car of her own, has had a house bought for her, is a trust fund baby, and had not only her bachelor's degree completely paid for, but 2 years of graduate work as well. Fast forward to today, she's been working at the same awful paying, 8 months a year teacher's assistant job for almost 24 years now, that doesn't utilize her degree at all, and is paid less than $30K a year. She's totaled at least 5 cars in just my lifetime and had new ones immediately bought for her, and she couldn't afford the bills and taxes in the house she was bought, and instead of selling it, didn't pay anything and let the house foreclose. The house foreclosed when I was about 6 or 7, and ever since we've been either homeless in people's basements or in apartments. I'm now 19 and started college this past year, and I've become increasingly aware of her lifestyle. Every apartment we've lived in has been paid for, rent, by my dad's child support checks every month, And now that my brother and I are both over 18, my grandparents are paying my mom's rent in full. This would be one thing if it was an $800 a month studio apartment, but my mom now lives alone. My brother and I moved for college, in a 2-bedroom, 3-floor apartment that's just under $2,500 a month. With this being said, my parents agreed when they split up that each of them would take responsibility for helping with one of the kids' college tuitions. And my dad has been helping my brother fund and organize his education. My mom, on the other hand, refuses to, and literally can't right now, help with any tuition money, and still yells at me for taking out student loans because she doesn't like debt. Weird. I was even accepted to my dream school senior year and declined, so I could do super cheap community college for the first 2 years, then hopefully transfer to my dream school to get my BA diploma there. My wealthy grandparents don't want to help me on 2 accounts at this point. One being that they're paying for my 55-year-old mom's rent, which adds up to over $25,000 a year, more than my college tuition. And also that they also think my dad should be paying for my college. He cannot support both my brother and I. My brother has also taken out student loans, just much less. I've told my mom now countless times that if she just moved to a smaller apartment or got a higher-paying job, the family would be able to contribute more money towards the good cause of my schooling and less towards rent money that has zero return on investment. In response, my mother tells me that I am the problem because I steal money from her when I'm home for the summer and eat her food, and holds any incremental amounts of gas money she'll randomly send me while I'm at school over my head. I feel like I'm going insane when I talk to her because she does not hear anything she doesn't want to, and will not do anything that she doesn't feel like doing, even at everybody else's expense. It's such a hard position to be in because generally she's very loving and emotionally supportive of me, but it's hard for me not to see her as having bad intentions or be resentful when she has all of her options laid out right in front of her and still chooses to do what's worst for everybody else. As of yesterday, she told me I'm cut off from any gas or grocery money while I'm at college, and she refuses to ask my grandparents to contribute because she already gets so much money from them. Also, just for reference, since she works at a school and gets summer vacations, her mom sends her weekly paychecks for doing nothing. My mom works the same amount as I go to school and goes out to eat with friends at least 2-3 times a week. I swear to God, she has Taco Tuesday, Wednesday night dinner, and Sunday brunches every single week. I do seriously feel like I'm going fully insane when I talk to her about these kinds of things, and it's so stressful to be in financial position as a kid, especially when I know solutions are at arm's reach, and she has had every life advantage available to her to give me those same benefits. She's not a diagnosed narcissist, but from my research, she very much fits every description and symptom to a T. Any insight, validation, or advice is greatly appreciated.